The Zarathi arena hadn't seen excitement like this in decades. 50,000 beings from across the galaxy packed the crystalline stands, their various appendages waving betting chips and refreshment containers. At the center of it all, a lone human female stood in the blood-stained sand, facing the reigning champion. Gorik the Destroyer loomed for meters tall, his chitinous armor gleaming under the arena lights. Undefeated in 300 matches. Killer of species. Ender of bloodlines. His forearms each held a different weapon: plasma blade, neural whip, gravity hammer, and molecular disruptor. The human looked almost pitiful in comparison. Jessica Martinez stood barely 1.7 meters, wearing simple combat fatigues. Her only weapon was a standard Earth Defense Force combat knife, practically a toothpick against Gorik's arsenal. Beings of the galaxy, the announcer's voice boomed across the arena. Witness the final match of this human slave, Earth's last champion against our undefeated destroyer. The crowd roared. Humans were new to the galactic slave markets, and this would be the 27th to die in the arena. Entertainment value was high. They fought with surprising vigor before inevitably falling. Jessica stood perfectly still, eyes closed, breathing steady. Gorik chittered his species' equivalent of laughter. "Little meat thing," he growled through his translator. "Your planet burns. Your people serve. You die now for sport. Any last words?" Jessica opened her eyes. The crowd nearest the force barriers would later swear they saw her smile. "Just one question," she said, voice carrying despite the crowd noise. "The force barriers. They keep things in, not out, right?" Gorik's confusion lasted half a second. Then Jessica dropped her knife. The crowd erupted in celebration. The human had surrendered. Even Gorik lowered his weapon slightly, disappointed at being denied a proper kill. The betting stations lit up as beings rushed to collect early winnings. That's when Jessica moved. Not toward Gorik, toward the wall. The audience had exactly enough time to process that the human was running away from her opponent before Jessica hit the arena wall at full sprint. But she didn't stop. She planted one foot on the wall and pushed up, defying gravity through sheer momentum. 2 steps, 3, 4, she was running up the vertical surface. "Impossible!" the announcer screamed. At 3 meters high, Jessica pushed off hard, backflipping through the air. The crowd's cheers turned to confusion as she landed in a crouch, then launched herself at the wall again. This time at an angle, ricocheting between the corner walls, gaining height with each bound. Gorik stood frozen, watching the human turn the arena into her personal jungle gym. The audience fell silent except for one Valerian physicist who whispered, "The gravity here is only 0.8 standard. For a human, that means..." Jessica reached the force barrier in 9 seconds. She didn't try to break through. Instead, she grabbed one of the projection nodes that generated the barrier field. The node, designed to withstand impacts from inside the arena, had never been tested against a human's grip strength combined with Earth-trained muscle memory. It snapped off in her hand. A section of the force barrier flickered and died. A 2-meter gap appeared in the shield that separated the crowd from the arena floor. Jessica looked directly at the VIP section where the slave masters sat, where the ones who had burned Earth's colonies watched their entertainment. She hefted the broken node like a spear. 14 seconds, she said clearly. "That's how long you have." The stampede started at 10 seconds. 50,000 beings, many who had never known personal danger, suddenly realized they were in an enclosed space with a human who had just turned their protective barrier into a weapon, a human whose planet they had enslaved. Panic spread faster than neural plague. Zalathi trampled Korathians. Vex crushed Mindari. The arena's exits, designed to process crowds over hours, became death funnels as thousands tried to flee at once. Gorik dropped his weapons and ran. The greatest arena champion in history, reduced to just another terrified being scrambling for escape. He made it 6 steps before the fleeing announcer's hover platform crashed into him. Jessica stood in the gap she'd created, not moving, just watching. She didn't need to chase anyone. The crowd was doing her work for her. 12 seconds. The VIP section's private evacuation pods activated, carrying the slave masters away from their own creation. 13 seconds. The last conscious spectator clawed their way over unconscious bodies toward an exit. 14 seconds. The arena was empty except for Jessica and several thousand beings who would need medical attention. She walked back to the center of the arena, picked up her dropped knife, and looked at the recording drones still hovering above. "Tell the galaxy," she said calmly. "Humans don't perform. We hunt. And you just showed us where you live." The last thing the drones recorded was Jessica Martinez walking out through the main champion's gate, whistling something that xenomusicologists would later identify as Beethoven's Ninth. The Zarathi arena never reopened.